number of years ago, I was asked to do a short lecture for a group of graduating high school seniors. They'd been invited to ASU after having been admitted to come and experience a day of university life. So I was teaching a class in relational communication at the time, and we were studying intimacy. And I thought, if there's one thing that high school students want to know about, it's going to be intimacy. So when I walked into the classroom that day, I began with the question, what is intimacy? Silence. But I was ready for them. I said, let me ask this. What if I was to ask you if you've been intimate with your boyfriend or girlfriend? Silence. And then this one young man about 2 rows back kind of scooched up in his chair a little bit, and he said, sex. You'd be wanting to know if we'd had sex. And he looked pretty proud that he had said sex in a college classroom. I said, that's absolutely right. That's the way our culture understands that particular term. But let me ask you this, is all sex intimate? And then about 12 of those formerly silent students said no. I said, then what is intimacy? That was the driving question on a study we've just completed, where we asked over 200 people to tell us what intimacy meant to them. And those individuals told us, as you might guess, that intimacy is about togetherness. It's something about being with other individuals, other human beings, and that happens through talk and touch and time and through transformation, interestingly. Now, you'll hear more about transformation because we were most interested in how they experienced intimacy. So we then asked them to tell us about times they had experienced intimacy across relationship type, family, friends, lovers, and across contexts. Tell us about a time where you experienced intimacy through talk, through sex. How about play? Or during conflict, or maybe grief, or forgiveness. Out of those elements, we had stories and anecdotes, and we analyzed those, found a number of themes that cut through those in people's experience of intimacy, and I want to share 6 of those themes with you tonight. So the first theme is closeness, right? You would guess that. Right, to be close, that togetherness element, right? This is synonymous with intimacy, feeling close psychologically, physically, emotionally. That's what it means for most people to be intimate. But closeness also involves feeling connected to others, this deep sense of connection to another human being. So let's look at a quote from one of our participants. This man said about a friendship, the relationship took on a more intimate nature as the level of self-disclosures increased. The more we shared who we are and how we exist in this world, the good and the bad, the more connected and intimate the relationship became. I really love this quote because he's talking about sharing who we are, how we exist in the world, how we're doing this whole relationship thing, and how we're trying to figure out how to be human together. Right? The good and the bad. Now, when we experience this with another person, we have a profound sense of feeling understood by someone, and that's our second theme, understanding. But it's not just that somebody understands what we're saying or follows our logic. They were reporting it was when people understood them, the person. Or as commonly we say, right, someone gets you, right? You get me. So actor Jeff Daniels was conducting an interview a couple of years ago, and he mentioned that he had had a conflict with his wife recently. And the interviewer asked what the conflict was about, and he somewhat brilliantly replied, it was about what all conflicts are ultimately about. You don't get me. Right? You don't get me. Like, if you got me, how could you possibly have made that decision? Like, if you get me, how could you think that I would? You don't get me. But when you do get me, that's closeness. That's intimacy. But getting me, the good and the bad, makes us vulnerable with others. That's the third theme, vulnerability. So vulnerability is the dilemma of intimacy. No vulnerability, no intimacy. But the upside of vulnerability is that it allows us to develop trust in a relationship with another human being. And that trust takes us into deep places that we couldn't go otherwise. So let's look at another quote from one of our participants. This woman said, "Sex has created a sense of trust within my relationships. It shows that I'm comfortable enough with you to let you see me at my most vulnerable. Sex is a soul tie, so whenever I take that step with someone, I am letting them in and giving them the chance to hurt me." Oh, listen to that. Vulnerable. I know you can hurt me because you know me. You're seeing me. But I'm hoping that I can trust you, right? That I've made a wise decision and that we can trust one another in this relationship. When we develop trust in a relationship that has that kind of vulnerability, it leads to the fourth theme, which is presence. This sense of presence, right, is a profound sense of being with another person, aware of one another's failings, strengths, like who we are, getting each other, right? But without judgment. Without judgment. Not that we agree on everything, but I accept you. Like, I get you for who you are as a person. That's a beautiful thing. And when we're accepted that way by another human being, it leads to the fifth theme that we found, which is worth. Right? When you're accepted that way, when you're present with another individual that way without judgment, there's a sense of value that comes with that I'm worth something. A mom in our study told us about spending time with her kids, and she said, "When I spend time with my children, no agenda, just hanging out, playing with them, I'm telling them, you are worth it. You are worth it." And the beautiful thing about that is when you feel that sense of value and you feel known and safe in a relationship, it takes you to our sixth theme, which is transformation. Transformation isn't just a sense of changing a few things in the relationship, kind of tweaking some things so that it's a little better. Here we're talking about transformation in terms of finding the true self. People told us that in their intimate relationships, they began to discover and be able to experience and express their true self. So a number of years ago, I had a massage therapist who was 35 years old, and when she found out I teach about relationships at the university, she said, "I have to be honest with you, I'm a little frustrated. I can't find someone to settle down with." I said, "Well, what are you looking for in a partner?" And she said, "Someone I can be silly with." Now that took me by surprise. But what was she talking about? Somebody that I can be with safely, who's not going to judge me, who may not understand all of my behavior and how it makes sense, but I make sense to them. Right? I'm safe. Somebody where I can let my guard down. Let's look at a final quote from one of our participants who put it like this: "It's that feeling of dropping your guard and becoming the absolute version of you." Intimacy isn't just nice when it happens. It is a pathway to becoming the absolute version of you. Thank you very much.